Revenue structure is one of the very important concept in the market structure. Remember that cost structure remain constant for all type of market structures, but revenue it changes with the changes in the market structure. If it's a perfectly comparative market, then firms are price taker. They have to follow prices determined by the market, so their price remain constant. As prices are constant, then AR will be equal to MR. Average revenue of the firm will be equal to marginal revenue of the firm. And if you take it on the y-axis, the AR and MR, then you will find a demand curve which is horizontal, perfectly elastic demand curve as market is perfectly comparative and the goods are homogeneous. So AR is equals to MR equal to price, and this horizontal line along with x-axis, it shows a perfectly elastic demand curve for the firm, not for the market but for the firm. On the other hand, firm's total revenue, it will be upward sloping. Remember that whenever we have a constant price, there will always be a straight line. It will not be a curve, because price constant means that for every additional unit of the output, the revenue increases with the same amount. As it increases with the same amount, so it will remain a straight line. It will not be a curve. So total revenue will be a straight line upward sloping curve. However, in an imperfect market, firms are price maker. But remember that firms are price maker, but they have to follow demand curve. Since demand curve of individual slopes downward, then firm can either set a price or the output. If firm set the price, then output will be determined by the demand curve. And if output is determined by the firm, is set by the firm, then price will be determined by the demand curve. So firms are not able to determine price and the output both at the same time. They can either set the price or the output. And since downward sloping demand curve, it means that in order to sell more units of the output, a monopolist has to reduce price. So as you can see that we have, and producer revenue is a product of price and the quantity demanded. We have taken quantity demanded in one column. Quantity is rising, so price must have been falling. You can see that prices are falling. And the product of price and the output or quantity demanded is the total revenue of the firm. So this what is a simple product of price and the output. You can see initially revenue is rising and then revenue is falling after it has become constant at 5 and 6, which is $300. Marginal revenue is the revenue that a firm can earn by selling an additional unit of output. It can be determined with the help of taking a difference between total revenue and divided by difference in the output. So for the first it will be 100, to the second it will be 80, 60, 40, 20 and 0, and then 280 minus 300 will be 20, and then 240 minus 280 will be minus 40, and then 180 minus 240 it will be minus 60. So marginal revenue, it decreases, reaches to 0, and then it moves into negative as well, because additional unit is going to reduce your revenue, and that determines a negative revenue for marginal revenue for the firm. Average revenue means revenue for each unit of output that a firm is producing. Each unit of the output, not the additional one, but for every single unit in the output. That can easily be determined with the help of total revenue and output. So total revenue divided by output determines the average revenue. Now, if you can see that average revenue is coming out to be the same as price, so we can say that price is always equal to average revenue, whether it's a perfectly comparative market or an imperfect market. Now, if we take a draw diagram to call these values to the graph, so by taking marginal and average revenue on the y-axis, output on the x-axis, so these are the different outputs given in the table, and there are the different amount of revenues that firm can earn. So first we take the average revenue, and this average revenue is equals to demand curve. Because average revenue and price are the same, the relationship between output and price is quantity is demand curve, relationship between output and price is the demand curve. Since average revenue is price, so average revenue curve also is equal to demand curve. Since AR is equal to price, so relationship between AR and output will also be a demand curve. Then we take the marginal revenue. It will again be a straight line. You can see AR and MR because you can see the gap is constant. Marginal revenue is falling by $20 every single time when we increase output, and average revenue is falling by $10 whenever we increase the output. So these two will be with the help of a straight line. So this was your MR. Now, a very interesting relationship with the revenue, total revenue if you take on the y-axis, and if you take the output on the x-axis, so you can see here that total revenue, initially it is rising, it reaches to the highest level, and then it starts falling. So total revenue shape will be like this. Now total revenue is the highest when marginal revenue is zero. You can see that marginal revenue is zero and total revenue is the highest. We already have studied this in O-levels and AS level, that the part of the straight line downward sloping demand curve is elastic. You can see that when price decrease, revenue increase, demand is said to be elastic. Decrease in price, increase in revenue, we call this type of demand curve as elastic. And when total revenue remain constant, yani ke P1 into P2 is equals to P2 into Q2, P1 into Q1, P1 into Q1, when it is equal to P2 into Q2, the demand is said to be unit elastic. So total revenue is constant and change in revenue is zero. You can see here that between the output of 5 and 6, the total revenue is constant. P1 into Q1, that is 5 into 60 is 300, and P2 into Q2, that is 6 into 500 is again 300. So when total revenue is constant, demand is said to be unit elastic. However, when we decrease price and the revenue decreases, it is known as an inelastic demand curve where elasticity is less than 1. So this one is a simple relationship between total revenue, average revenue, and the marginal revenue when markets are imperfect. So in an imperfect market, this type of a revenue structure is there. For a perfectly comparative market, AR is always equal to MR, but for an imperfect market, AR and MR both are downward sloping. Thank you very much.